K2BTools is the professional tool suite with the most experience in the GeneXus community. It automates the creation of applications and drastically decreases development times, building applications in a quick, easy, and cost-effective way. With a presence in over 20 countries and an interdisciplinary team, K2BTools is made up of different solutions which adapt to the needs of each project or organization. K2BTools Web consists of a set of patterns and extensions which automate the creation of web applications in GeneXus. K2BTools Mobile allows GeneXus developers to generate native applications for all devices using predefined patterns and designs. K2B Audit is a transparent solution which leverages the process of auditing every update to an application and access to its data. K2B Call U is a component for the integration of video calls in any GeneXus application. The core values at K2BTools will be reflected in your projects. Higher productivity, allowing for the development of a large number of features automatically and with little or no effort. Best development practices used in large-scale projects and incorporated into the current methodology to generate high-quality applications. Secure applications guaranteed, aligned with the global information security principles. Excellent user experience, on the same level as some of the most advanced design systems. Technological evolution hand in hand with every new GeneXus release. Make the most of your GeneXus applications with K2BTools.
Hi, I'm Marie-France Bourgeois and I'm part of the K2BTools team, and today I will be here with Fede Dominioni in this webinar for the Enterprise Low Code 2022 event of GeneXus. For those of you who do not know K2BTools, we want to tell you that we are part of a group of companies made up of GeneXus Consulting, a leading company in digital transformation projects with over 30 years of experience and over 850 critical mission projects conducted using GeneXus and K2BTools. We have K2BTools, which is a world-class solutions company with a great trajectory and experience. As of 2021, we were acquired by Constellation Software Inc. through Vesta Software Group, and we became part of the company's portfolio. Constellation is in the stock market and has a presence across the world. Now, I want to go back to the pillars of K2BTools that will be reflected in all of your projects. We have an increase in productivity, thus enabling the development of many features automatically and with very little effort. We have best development practices used in many projects and incorporated in the current methodology for high-quality apps. We offer an excellent user experience. We go hand in hand with new technologies together with every GeneXus version, and we work with a leading security team for GeneXus apps that is aligned with the world principles of computer security. The K2BTools suite is adapted to many needs of different projects and organizations. We have K2BTools Web that automatizes the construction of GeneXus web apps. K2BTools Mobile allows for the creation of native apps using predefined designs. K2B Audit allows for the auditing of all changes, and we have K2B Call U, which allows you to have video calls in any GeneXus apps. We have a presence in over 20 countries through our local distributors and partners, and we have a team that is ready to deal with all the requirements of our users. And now I want to go to Fede, who will be telling us a bit more about the pillars that are part of all of our solution and that are present in all of our projects.
Thank you so much, Marie. Marie was telling us a bit about the pillars of K2BTools and how did we get to many of those pillars. For example, she talked about productivity, and in this talk, we're going to see how K2BTools will automate a number of common features that applications need to have, generating GeneXus code automatically, and we're going to see this in the automated features point. Then we will also see how we can really boost developers through a powerful template selection mechanism to create interfaces. Then we will also work a lot on UI components that will greatly improve user experience in GeneXus applications. And finally, we will tell you a bit about the powerful design systems offered by K2BTools so that the applications that you're generating to your users will come with a great user experience. So let's talk about automated features. To start, maybe we could tell you that one of the technologies that we use in K2BTools to build all this automation is the patterns technology. In particular, we have 3 patterns that are in charge of automating all the different activities related to a transaction. When we talk about standard transactions, well, what do I mean by that? In the GeneXus world, many of these activities are called work with. All applications need to have this kind of interface to set up the maintenance of the entities and the modifications. So in K2BTools, we have a wide spectrum of configuration of this behavior. For example, in this case, we can just have the addition to have an interface that is dedicated to this, but you also have different modalities so that you can build this work with. For example, here I'm showing you a master detail, which is very simple to use in K2BTools. And this depends on the kind of entity that you have. So for example, you can configure it to have it to select the mode that will best adapt to your needs and to your users' needs. Also, applications need to have reporting on those entities, and for that, K2BTools will automate the construction of those reports, both PDF and Excel. It's also really important that interfaces can have multiple views. For instance, in those interfaces where you have images, I would like to have the possibility of highlighting those images and allow the end user to select whether they want to see that information as a grid or maybe as a card that will emphasize those images or in some other attribute of that image. So it's key for those entities to have an analysis view that will indicate how that entity is participating in our application so that we can see all that information in the form of charts and queries so that the end user can use which of the views they want to use, whether it's grids or cards or business analysis. This is very important for the applications that we are building nowadays. It is also key to have interfaces where you can see where the main entity is and how that entity correlates to the rest of the entities that are part of your system. For this, you have the entity manager, where you can show cards with tabs. You have a little side menu. So you have a number of options so that you can make up and put together these kind of interfaces. And this is completely automated, but not everything is a work with. We have in our systems interfaces that are a bit more complex and that could not be associated to entities. So for example, maybe you could need to have information about the services of applications. So you have this designer tool that will allow you to build responsive web applications and native applications for smart devices. An example of these interfaces that you can build with a web panel designer are, for example, the wizard interfaces, where in this case we are selecting some invoices that we need to pay and you have different steps to follow. And you have this need to go back and forth and have a visual component that will allow you to see all the different steps and store the information that was entered into by the user. So for this, in K2BTools and the wizard, you have all this automated behavior. We were talking about selection, and one of the things that we offer in an automated way is the behavior of selection summary. So it means that you can select elements in a grid and you can have a summary of the selected elements. In this case, for example, this could be a tab, or it could be configured so that the information will appear on the right as you can see it, or in the bottom part as you saw in the wizard case. And all of this is absolutely automated by K2BTools without having developers need to do much else. We also offer a lot of very powerful layouts that developers can use to adapt it to their needs. So for example, you can have prices, you can have a timeline, and this is also for web and for mobile, where you also have a number of different interfaces that you can choose from, and these are all automated. Another kind of thing that applications need to have is dashboard interfaces that can also be easily built. I want to stop here and tell you a bit more about this import-export feature, because it's something that we incorporated in the last versions of K2BTools. Normally we have this scenario where you have an application that is in prototype mode and it needs to move into production, and oftentimes what you need is not to move that application but also data that you have in that application. So for example, here we have clients and we want to move that into production. So for that in K2BTools, we automate the export feature that will allow you to export that information so that later on in our production environment, you can import that again. So here you can select on import from CSV, you select the file that you want to import, you apply the action, and you'll have a preview of the information that you're importing, where you will also have the possibility of validating that information to see whether or not the data that you're importing are correct. And if everything is okay, you just click on confirm and it automatically will import all the data so that you have it similar in terms of the prototype and production environments. It may happen that when you do this import, you get an error. So here I'm going to show you an example where I can have an error. If I click on import, I go to validate data, and it will show me in the preview what are the rows that have an issue, so that the end user can correct that CSV, that file, or maybe they can import everything and just ignore the rest. Well, after that, applications need to have need to give users a possibility to customize them, because they don't use them for all the same. We have different kinds of users, and for that, it is critical that users can adapt the interface to what they want. So some things can be customized, even though they are already automated. For example, the number of rows per page. If you want to see a certain grid, you can change that. Also, users can customize, for example, in all the interfaces, and this is at a zero cost with developers, because this is embedded in K2BTools. For example, they may want to freeze the titles of columns, or even select what are the attributes that you want to display. So here you select the different attributes, you apply those changes, and you can even have end users decide what the order will be of the columns that will be showing the information. So you see that you can drag these different columns, and all of this is absolutely automated in K2BTools, so that developers don't need to implement this. This comes with it. And this allows users to have different roles in the application. For example, sometimes you can use the same interface to do different things. And for this, we also allow to save customized views. So a user can save a certain view so that they can have access to it later on with the applied filters and with the columns that they selected and with the order of the columns that they defined. And you can vary different views so that you can use with the very same interface, but in different ways. So a critical point here is security. K2BTools can be used both with GAM and without GAM. But our biggest recommendation is that you use K2BTools with GAM. So for this, when you're using K2BTools with GAM, it will offer you a backend so that you can set up security with the design systems that come with K2BTools, but it also offers additional security checkups, and it takes into account security not to present a user with activities that they don't have access to. Well, in a post-pandemic world, most of us have maybe a blended or fully remote work, or sometimes in person, but this also means that in our applications, users should be able to interact with each other. And not only that, but we should get a notification when something important happens. So for this, what we offer is the notifications and collaboration module, so that you can incorporate to any application with K2BTools that you've built this module. This will allow you to set up notifications to your users and to incorporate to entities a sort of chat where users can just tag each other that will trigger a notification, and they can have a conversation, for instance, to decide what's going to happen with a certain entity, or what happened in this case with this invoice, you name it. And that information will be stored in that application as well. It is also possible to integrate video calls to this, and for that we have a product that is independent from K2BTools Web, which is called CallU. CallU allows us to integrate video calls in native applications, whether they are smart devices native, so you can do your applications in a mobile device and incorporate CallU, or web applications for that matter, and all of this is embedded in the CallU product. Nowadays, applications are managing a lot of sensitive information. But not only that, more and more they are subjected to different regulations. So for this, it is key that all of you have a traceability of what's happening with your data and information. For that, we have K2B Audit, which is a product that allows us to know what has been modified, who made the changes, when were the changes made, and who accessed the data. It's important to say as well that users can have access to that information in the very same moment that changes take place, affecting the application's performance to a minimum. K2B Audit is the application chosen by GeneXus users to audit products, and it's the one that has the most vast experience. So we talked a lot about automated behavior, and I want to tell you a bit about how we help developers so that those easy interfaces can be recognized and applied in a very straightforward way, in a very simple way. And this boosts productivity a lot, and it allows programmers to generate interfaces without having to write a single line of code. So let me tell you a bit about this templates mechanism that we have in K2BTools. Imagine that we have a product transaction to which you want to apply a pattern, so you can create your instance based on a template. So for that, you can choose you can choose what you work with and your entity managers are going to be. On the left, you have the different templates that you can select, and on the right, you have a real-time preview applied to that entity where you see what you can choose from. So for example, you say, I want to have multiple views of this product or this entity. And for the entity manager, I think that it's better because I'm seeing at the preview that it looks really nice to have it with cards. So you choose that, and once you do it, you click on finish, and the only thing that you need to do is to save that so that the pattern will be applied. And automatically, when you do that, without the user having to write a single line of code, you get this interface, which has all the automated behaviors that we mentioned before, such as, for example, runtime column selection, filters, but that will on top allow you to move from one view to the other. And developers practically have done nothing, this is all automatically done, and it's very complex, and it allows you to filter the information and to see those filter data. And the entity manager that had been predefined as a card will appear there, and then developers can have can fine-tune it a little bit more and make some changes and tweak it a little bit. They can change the template. They can do all of this, but much of their work will have been done because of this very powerful mechanism. Another example is the designer, where you can also choose to build interfaces that are template-based. So you will have a dialog where you can choose if you want to have a list or a detail, or if you want to have an edit, or if you want to build wizard interfaces. So let's say, okay, I want to just work with a list, and you can use a base object. Amongst these, you may choose not only transactions, but also data providers or SDTs. And so what I'm going to choose here is a data provider, because I have a service that will return the different invoices that are about to expire. So I'm going to click that. That is encapsulated in a data provider. I'm going to choose that. So which are the almost expired invoices. I click on next, and it takes me to a template selector. And I have, again, the real-time preview of the templates that I select. I have a wide array of options to choose from, and I can take a look at this because it's highlighting the image, which looks very nice. But maybe, having a second thought, maybe I would like to work with a timeline, because that would be great to display the invoices that are about to expire. So I click on finish, and automatically, again, that interface has been generated for you. Developers click on save, and voila, you get your interface where you can see all the invoices that are about to expire in timeline without developers having to write a single line of code. Now I'm gonna tell you a bit more about how to really boost your application design through the incorporation of a number of components that help you to give your end users an excellent user experience. And to start, we're going to talk about Atom components offered by K2BTools. I would really like to highlight that we have more than 220 component variables that you can really use to improve your user experience. For example, one of the cases that we have in K2BTools is the dynamic combo box case, but extended, so it allows you to show images to categorize information, to have a searcher that, of course, gives you so many improvements to your end users. But on top of that, you have the list box components, and you also get the chance to have an extended suggest with the same features that the combos have in terms of the interface. Also, to select, you have toggles that can be configured depending on whether you want it rectangular or middle-sized or with a small size, depending on your scenario. You can also have the choice to select something in a plane, for example, the image region selector. Here we are choosing where we're going to be parking the car. It's a detailed parking lot, and you can just choose where you're going to park. Okay, so you just click that, and this is the best way to do it, definitely. We also extended the numeric input in GeneXus. So, for example, if you enter a numeric in GeneXus, the picture will be automatically applied once you leave the field. So, with the numeric input of K2BTools, that happens as you write it. And this really improves the usability of K2BTools applications. We also worked a lot with masked input data, a very common case in Brazil that has a company or person identifier number, which is called CNPJ or CPF. Well, then for that you get a mask so that end users can enter that those details, and they will have a great user experience. Or the typical case of credit cards, that these are like 4-digit groups of numbers that can be done like this. So with this visual, you're greatly improving the user experience. You also have numeric sliders, steppers, also for numeric fields. Also for filters, you can choose, for example, day ranges in a calendar. You can choose from to, or semantic filters where you can choose, for instance, you can say, okay, let's see what happened in the last 120 days or in February 2020. You can also use numeric range filters. For example, in a slider, you can choose the from and to in a very straightforward way. And another thing that we've been working quite a lot on this last year is in these collection variables. If you don't have a collection variable, what you're going to get is a grid. In K2BTools, what we did was we try to use control types to define collection variables. So it is possible in that instance to have a property that is called isCollection. And if you select that as true, that will allow you to choose from these different types of controls that you can see below. So for instance, if you choose the dynamic combo K2BTools, you can have a combo with a different checkbox. So you can choose from that with different previews. If you want, for example, selected elements to appear as tags, or if you want that to appear all concatenated, or maybe, in a workflow, you get a +1, or even the same thing extended to the dynamic list or the suggest list for K2BTools. You also get toggle, and we incorporated the edit collection control, where you have this edit control that will allow you to add different values. I wanted to tell you a use case for the collection variables that I think is quite interesting for all GeneXus developers. Let's imagine that we have a category transaction, a unit transaction, and a product transaction that is relating products to categories and units. So by default, if you try to do that, what will end up happening is that categories and units will be added in a grid. Well, with K2BTools and collection variables, you can encapsulate that knowledge, that behavior in a transaction, and you can add units. So for example, here you're doing it with a suggest by K2BTools, and you're saying, well, these are my product units, and you're doing that as you're importing it. The same thing with categories. For example, here you can use the box combo. It allows you to see images. It allows you to choose the different categories when you're putting in the products. Then you click on confirm. And with that, trust me, you're greatly improving the user experience compared to what you had before. You can even delete some units and they will be gone. And honestly, for end users, they don't even need to know that this is in 3 tables. Everything is just, it feels part of a single unit, which is really cool and greatly improves UX. So we've seen a number of components offered by K2BTools. Now we're going to talk about something more global to the applications. let's talk about design systems. You have powerful design systems in K2BTools designed by designers, considering the different heuristics of user experience, so that with those design systems, you have a great user experience, but you can also use that in very complex applications. These are one of the most important things in terms of design systems, but because the aesthetic trends in design may vary over time, it is really important that those design systems can be changed by you. And for that, we have something truly powerful in K2BTools. We have a specification language that is independent from the interface that you're using. So what you see on the left is a work with specification where you're saying what columns you want to see, what the filters are, and what the orders are. And with that, you get the image on the right. But we are not telling it what is the HTML structure that is a part of that. You're not saying, hey, listen, filters are going to be in an HTML chart, and this is part of a responsive table, which is concatenated in a div. No, none of that. This allows you to use the same specification language to generate different kinds of interfaces. For example, this one that you have on the right, or these interfaces that you can see as we move forward. And all of this has the same specification language. And in this way, you can have your users and your developers to change the design system that they're using at any point in the development of the application. This means that if you want to modernize your application to have a new, more modern design system, you can do that without much cost, because the only thing that you need to do is tell K2BTools that you want to use that design system and then replicate all the instances. And this is thanks to the fact that we have a specification language that has no HTML structure knowledge. Another thing is that we also allow you to configure your design system and customize it in a very easy way. For that, you get this design system configuration, which is a very powerful tool, so that if you don't have any CSS knowledge, you can still make modifications. You can choose the different colors that your application will have, the different font sizes, and it will also allow you to have a real-time preview where you can see, as you make these changes, what your application is going to look like. So you make a change, you click on finish, you reapply the instances, and this is how you customize the design system that you have. Also, for the specification of design systems in K2BTools, we're using the latest GeneXus technology. You know that GeneXus released the design system object, and 1 month after that, we had a version in K2BTools that was supporting this new element, this new object, which is much easier to use for developers. That is a key aspect, but also it allows us to separate the K2BTools design system and your design system. What are K2BTools classes and what are your classes, which separates things, unlike its predecessor, which was the theme object that had everything together. So that means that K2BTools updates are much easier, and it gives you benefits. Like, for example, you can customize the design system in runtime. And a typical example of this is, for instance, if you want to move from dark to light mode. So here you have an application that here in runtime, you can just change between dark and light mode. And this is a predefined behavior, but you could do anything else, for example, changing colors or font sizes. All of this thanks to the fact that K2BTools is using this design system object, which is a great piece of news coming from GeneXus. I think it's also important to highlight that all these design systems can be 100% adapted to your client's needs. So for that, I just want to tell you a bit about a couple of designs that were done with different K2BTools users and how they adapted that design system to get totally different interfaces in K2BTools. So we have truly a lot of power in these design systems. I'm going to give the floor back to Marie-France to close the presentation.
Thank you, Fede. We always place our focus in our community, trying to exchange ideas. We want to be connected. We want to generate different channels and mechanisms to get feedback from ourselves to you and from you to ourselves, so that we can improve every single time and give you better tools and solutions. And for that, we have the K2BTools Wiki, where you can find a lot of materials, releases, and different options so that you are able to understand and learn by yourselves many things that you might be wondering about in K2BTools. We also have training videos in our YouTube channels, and they are, of course, updated, and you can get a lot of information from them about different aspects of the suite and of the many K2BTools suites and features. We also share webinars through GeneXus and through our channels. And we also want to invite you to connect to us so that you might be up to date in terms of what is happening and in terms of our updates. We also have a support team that provides support to all the requirements that you might have. That is, of course, something that we are fully invested in doing online, and we are at your disposal because we want to work with you and be in contact with you. We also have the K2BTools forum where users can interact and exchange information, opinions, and ways of doing things in K2BTools. And we also incorporated a new activity called Space K2BTools, focused in our community, where the K2BTools team and users exchange ideas, we get feedback, and we hear your suggestions so that we can have better solutions every time. And we also want to invite you to download the K2BTools Solution Suite. You can find it in K2BTools.com. You will find it there to create a demo and test it, and we are at your disposal if you need anything else. Thank you.
Thank you very much.